What up, dude? And welcome to the Die Hard Den. It's your man, Kurt Steele, coming at you, new and improved Die Hard Den. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a new co-host. I'm going to introduce him right now. My man, Seany J, is in the building. He's from Detroit, longtime Lions fans. Go ahead, Seany, introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, people, Lions fans out there. This is Seany J. I'm a long-time Lions fan since a kid, since 1978. Over 40 years and counting. I'm still waiting for that first Super Bowl like the rest of you. But we're going to get it because I do like the moves that Quinn and Patricia have moved this offseason, and we'll explain why.
All right. So welcome back to the Die Hard Den, ladies and gentlemen. I know we've been off for a while. Big shout out to my man's Will Fattore. We had this part ways. It was amicable. He may be on the show later on down the line, but he's going to be doing his own thing. And once I get a link to his information, to his new show, I'll share with the Die Hard fans of the show. He's doing a little different thing than I'm doing. It was an amicable thing. Our styles didn't mix, but big up to my man Wills. He's doing his big things down in Florida, so he will be contributing to the show here later on. So let's get into it. The off-season, free agency. First thing I want to talk about with my man Seany J is the individuals that we picked up from the futures signings. So give me we have a few individuals that we signed their future contracts. The one that stands out to me, my man, is Connor Cook. He kind of gives a kind of depth to the quarterback room. A lot of people don't remember that we have him on the roster. They just look at the individuals that we signed in free agency, but we do have a backup quarterback on the roster right now in Connor Cook. Give me your thoughts on Connor Cook.
Well, I remember Connor Cook. He was a pretty good quarterback at Michigan State. He was thought to be the next great thing coming out of Michigan State. They won a couple Big Ten titles with them. They made it to the 4-round playoffs with them. I think he'll be the perfect backup. The Raiders thought they had to steal when they drafted him a couple years ago. Obviously, things didn't work out, but I still think he has talent. I think he's the perfect backup for Matthew Stafford. He's still young. He has some starting experience. He's not quite a rookie, but he's not a 15-year veteran either. I think he's the right type of backup that we need for this team.
Yeah, I think he has some growing potential. He can be molded into what a good backup quarterback can be. The rest of the guys that we kind of signed, it kind of to me looks like practice squad guys. Brandon Riley, really no name. I mean, really guys. Kerwin Williams, Mark Thompson, and we did. I had a punter to kind of give Sam Martin, but Sam Martin's a solid punter, man. He's really good. But most of the guys I see on that future reserve contracts, those guys are probably going to help build our practice squad going forward with some of the undrafted free agents that we're going to probably get after the draft. Now looking at now, who is the biggest key departure going to have the biggest hole on the team in your estimation?
The biggest key departure from the Lions,
yes,
I do believe, is T.J. Lang. We have a big hole at right guard. Mm-hmm. It was Lang had to go because
go ahead.
He had injury. You there?
Yeah, you breaking up a little bit. Go ahead, now.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, you good.
It was time for T.J. Lang to go because he had injury problems. He couldn't stay healthy. Plus, he was aging, so it was time for him to go. But we still need a right guard, so that's the biggest hole we need to fill, and I feel that we can fill it in a draft, maybe by the second or third round. I'm not sold on the free agent they signed recently from the Cardinals. I want a young stud to fill in, to replace T.J. Lang. Right. So that's the biggest hole that Lions have to fill, in my opinion, because I don't want to see any more 10 sack games against Matthew Stafford. That's for sure.
I think TJ is a big loss. My guy, I picked Glover Quinn, and not just because I think it's more for me for what he brings to the locker room. I mean, Quinn's a guy. He was a leader on the team. He's been a staple in that defense. He rarely missed any time. I don't remember him missing a game in a Lions uniform where he had to miss a game because of injury. But I think he was a definitely voice on that in that secondary. I think you're going to have some guys probably step up. You know, you have Slay, who's the leader of that secondary now. You're going to have, of course, Quandre Diggs is going to have to step up as far as his game. He has a good, solid year last year. Actually, he had an obscure stat where he had like 3 interceptions, tackles for loss. Like, he was the only DB in the league to do this, and he had a pick 6 for a touchdown. So he is definitely stepping his game up. I think the move to safety for him is going to be good, where he can kind of roam around and play free safety. I think that they're going to move probably Walker or Adams, which is the new signing, to strong safety. Walker has that frame to play strong safety. He's big, tall guy, rangy, and he can cover some of the tight ends that come out. So I think we're going to be good there. But I think Quinn's leadership definitely is a hole that the Lions going to have to fill going forward with his departure. But just looking at the Lawson, which I thought he would have played better in the slot. I think his hustle will be missed. He's a guy, he kind of hustled around. He didn't, he wasn't a good outside corner, but I think he would have been better served as a slot corner, but we moved on from him. He's out in Oakland now. But I think that's it for those guys. Lang and Quinn are definitely the biggest holes they're going to miss on the Lions roster. Leadership and experience alone puts those guys ahead of the curve and puts us kind of in a hole for those two positions. So what else do you think about some of those guys who left with Lawson?
Nevin Lawson, let's start with him. I had high hopes when we drafted him in the fourth line in 2014. He got hurt his rookie year, but he came back strong. From what I understand, there's no guy that works harder in practice or in the weight room than Nevin Lawson. You got to give his effort. He's always there. But the problem with Lawson was he didn't make any plays. He's, 5 years into the league, and we're still waiting for him to get his first NFL interception.
Right.
And we needed more playmakers on the team. And every game I watch, the frustrating thing about Nevin is his technique. He gets burned constantly because he never turns his head around.
Right.
I mean, I practically have the television. Turn around, Charlie. You knock it down.
Yeah.
He gets beat that way too. So I don't know if it would have made a difference in playing inside the slot, maybe, but his time, he had every chance to prove himself. They kept the starting lineup, for most tenure here. But I think it was time to move on. I had nothing bad to say about him.
Right.
He did the best he could, but I wish him well in the future with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah. He was a good. I mean, I think he was a good all around guy. I just think I think he may fit better in another system, maybe more of a zone coverage type system, where I think that in Matt Patricia's defense and actually in the defense prior, the Lions play a lot of man deep coverage, and that this wasn't his forte in the NFL.
Or maybe it would have been a case where he would have been better suited at safety, where he didn't have to chase receivers, where he could look more towards the line of scrimmage and facing the line of scrimmage and looking where the quarterback's going. Maybe that a move to safety would have helped him. Maybe he's more of a safety than a corner, like was successful with Quandre Diggs. Maybe that could have been a good move for him too, but now we'll never know. Well, maybe Oakland sees something, can use him in a way that we didn't, but we'll find out comes training camp.
Right. So, all right. So let's get into these re-signings before we really get into the big name free agents that we signed. Looking at the individuals that we re-signed, We re-signed Zach Zenner. That wasn't really a surprise for me. Coming back when he came back last season, I mean, he had improved his game. He had more pop. He was a lot leaner. You look at the before and after pictures before he returned.
Yes.
He got himself back into shape, and if he maintains that, he's a good solid backup. As far I would really give him that he's a kind of speller. We still need a really a backup running back to carry on, but I think that Zach Zenner could be that guy that comes in and spells both of the guys that they're probably ahead of him. I will put him third on the depth chart. I really wouldn't put him second, but he can be that guy that comes in and kind of gives a change of pace, you know. But I really wouldn't put him. I wouldn't put him behind carry on.
Well, I like Dr. Z. That's why we call him from the beginning, because, of course, he's studying to be a doctor. He's one of my favorite players. I'm glad the Lions brought him back. You're right. When he initially got cut because he had an injury at the beginning of the year, he got an injury release with the understanding they might bring him back, which he did. And during that time away from the Lions, he kept the shit. He got jacked, you know, like the before and after picture. He really, you know, built up the muscles, the muscle tone, looked stronger. And you can see when he played those last few games that Kerryon set out, he ran the ball with more authority. I mean, he may be able to get away with that stuff in Division II football, the Jackrabbits.
Yeah, with the Jackrabbits.
But, you know, in NFL, he has more strength. And I think that really helped him. And I always feel like Dr. Z, you know, it still takes some talent to rush for 2,000 yards 3 years in a row in college football. I don't care what the division is. But in the NFL, he needed to build his strength and stamina. So I think that time away when he got to rehab and build his strength and build his muscle mass really helped him, and hope he can stay healthy. And I'm glad he's back. But I agree. I still want a young running back out the draft. I don't want any more retreads. We try to get Malcolm Brown, but the Rams, you know, easily matched his offer from the Lions. I want a running back like Gerald Henderson from Memphis or Karan Hickman from Michigan. I want that, you know, those are two good backs. I would like we can get maybe in the third or through sixth rounds.
Right. I think we can pick up a nice, and that's a good depth for this running back class. So you can pick up a good solid power back in those mid to late rounds. Moving on, I think Charles Washington, the cornerback, he's more of a special teamers. I think he took the place of he was a long time, his name just escaping me right now. He was a long time corner at for the special teams. I think Washington's a good special teamer. I think that he helps add that depth to the cornerback room, but it's more of a special team signing. I think he's a good gunner. He does very well in coverage. He can definitely blow up some punt returns, some kick returns at his position. Another key to me, definitely is Aquara, the defensive end. He led the team in sacks last year. Give me some thoughts on Romeo.
I'm definitely glad they brought him back. He was, you know, the no one guy I wanted to bring back, even over Zenner, because Corey's a big, you know, good size defensive end, 6'4", 275 pounds, plays to run well. He had his best season in his young career with the Lions. And he led us in sacks with 7.5 sacks. He plays to run well. In many ways, he's just like Trey Flowers, similar build, similar to stature. I'm sure we'll get to Trey in a minute. But I think we have two solid defensive ends. I really like Okara. You know what? I'm glad they brought him back. I'm glad the Lions didn't let him get away because I think that was Patricia touch. Both Okara and his former Giants teammate Devin Kennard had their best seasons with the Lions. Right. And I think Patricia had a lot to do with that, his coaching. So being a defensive coach by nature. Right. So I'm glad they're both coming back. I'm glad Okara's back. He's a good young defensive end. He was undrafted coming out of Notre Dame. Right. But I'm glad, you know, we got a steal from the Giants, 2 steals actually from the Giants. And I'm just happy they brought him back because I think he and Trey Flowers make us solid bookends on the defense. They can rush the passer and play the run. Right. They may not be Reggie White and Bruce Smith, but they're still pretty solid players.
Right.
And I really like Okwara.
Okwara was definitely, to me, was definitely a key re-signing as far as individuals, because you can get him for a you knew you were going to pay a bigger price tag for a big name defensive end like we did for Trey Flowers. But as far as he fits that scheme, he's that size and build that Patricia likes for that defensive end type of position. You can flex him around, move him to like the D tackle in that 3-4 system. So those guys are kind of interchangeable. You have another Stephen Longa. He coming back from injury. I think that he's a guy who's very endeared to Detroit. The fans like him. He's a good special teamers. I know he's and plus his father passed away the prior season, like at the end of the season. So I know he was really wanting to come back and give back to the city for the love he got from the Detroit and the team when he lost his father, the support they gave him, and he's ready to come back. And it was tough with the injury. Yeah, so I look forward to him coming back. Surprise re-signing for me was Cooper. I wasn't sure we were gonna, because you have Ford, but I don't know if he gives us depth at corner, maybe in special teams as well. But we signed some bigger name. We signed a bigger name corner in Coleman and Melvin. But I'm just kind of curious to see what Cooper's role is going to be. Is he just a depth signing? Not saying that he's going to make it all the way through on the 53-man roster or 56-man roster, but he may not make it. But the 53-man roster, I think it was just a make sure to have a depth signing for Cooper.
Well, yeah, I like them because Cooper, I know you're talking about, he has length. He's 6'2", 6'3", long arms. He's a pretty good cover corner. I think he has some ability. He's bounced around a bit, but I think once again, Patricia is doing things the Patriot way. Mm-hmm. You may not, and that's not necessarily getting, number one draft picks in every position. Mm-hmm. But you could mold a player into your image. Mm-hmm. Like Cooper does have some ability, some physical traits, just like Okwara and Kennard and others. But they play the way Patricia coached them up, and they play the way he wanted them to play. And they can be successful. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. But Cooper is one of those guys who does have the physical tools, I believe, to play for Matt Patricia. Right. So that's why he was resigned.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys who fits that mold of the defense. Like you don't have to have big name guys that are smart, cerebral, that can think on his feet. He was a late season signing, so as far as he didn't play a lot of meaningful football at the end of the year, but he played solid, so he can fit in a definitely good backup role at the cornerback position. So all right, so let's get into the big deal from the off season. Let's get into these free agent signings. I'm gonna rattle them off, and then we can go ahead and discuss them as we see fit. Okay. First, you got defensive end Trey Flowers, definitely a former Patriot. Is going to be a theme for the first couple guys. You got wide receiver Danny Amendola, of course. He's a former Patriot. You got cornerback Justin Coleman, former Patriot. You got cornerback Rashawn Melvin, a former Patriot. Then you got the Steelers, the former Steelers tight end Jesse James. Then you got my man Tommy Lee Lewis, the former Saint, who actually was a teammate of Kenny Golladay in college. You have the safety of Andrew Adams and out of Buse from the offensive guard that we talked about, and then we brought back Logan Thomas from the Bills because he was signed early last year and then released. So we know he's an athletic individual. We know he played quarterback at Virginia Tech. Definitely a guy who played hard. So Let's get into it. Big money man, Trey Flowers. What do you think about that signing?
I love it. He was the number one free agent on the market this year, 2019. I'm glad the Lions got him. You may have seen in our Facebook page, I compared him to the original number one free agent when free agency started back in 1993. Reggie White. You know, Reggie White at the time was the number one free agent, and the Lions, you know, almost had him, if you recall. Wayne Fontes, he had good personality. He was a player's coach. He was kind of got, you know, people want to play for him. And White, he admitted himself, he was that close to signing with the Lions, but the last minute he decided to sign with the Packers.
Right.
I think, you know, people call me crazy for comparing Trey Flowers to a Hall of Famer like Reggie White, but I think it's going to have a similar impact. Meaning, I think it's going to lead the Lions in sacks. I think he's going to be more of an all-around player, not just a pass rusher,
right,
which we need, but also a good run stuffer, edge setter. He did for New England. He may not necessarily get 15 sacks a year, but if you give me at least 9 or 10. And play the run well, I'll be very happy with the signing. I am, you know, I can't wait to see him on the field. I love the signing. I think Matt Patricia has that Wayne Fontes in him, meaning like he is a player's coach. There's a question in the beginning last year that players want to play for Patricia. I mean, because they were complaining that he was making them run too much or working them too hard in practice or practicing outdoors in the cold, even when they were scheduled to play a game in the cold. But I love what Patricia's doing. I think NFL players and pro athletes in general are getting a little too soft.
Right.
You know, all that money. Let me give you a quick example, crossover example, NBA. You know, you heard about this low management. What is that? I mean, players are too tired to play. You know, what is that? I mean, players back in the day played all 82 games, and the only way they missed a game is that they got hurt. Not because you were too tired to play a game. Thank me, the NFL. I mean, come on. They make the most money, but they tend to be the biggest babies. I mean, come on. What's up with that? Maybe I'm old school.
Maybe a little bit.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine going crossover to basketball, Chuck Daly resting Isaiah or Lambeer and those guys because you're too tired to play? Come on.
Definitely a different time. I like the Trey Flowers signing myself, just because of the fact that he, like you said, he brings a different element. He's not only a pass rusher, he's just an all around good defensive lineman. He plays the run well as well. If you look at the Patricia and the Patriots type of defense with Belichick, the defensive ends aren't, they're not really just pass rushers. They also, they play the run well. If you look at they have more sacks are from their outside linebackers. The interior linebackers are their bigger sack numbers. You look at the sack numbers for Jarrett Davis last year, definitely rose by leaps and bounds. They want to have that defensive line tie up those offensive linemen and those running backs, so they can free up those linebackers coming from the side and up the middle to cross pressure for the to pressure the quarterback. So those guys have a different role in that defense as far as the defensive ends. I think he's going to be definitely a big pickup for our defense. Will it stop us from drafting a defensive end? I don't know. But he is definitely one of the guys that I think him or Aquara can be definitely good bookends coming up this upcoming season. Next, we have Danny Amendola, the ultimate slot receiver. He's not a yak guy like Golden Tate, but he gets open. He knows how to run. He's a precise route runner. He knows how to get open, so there's no problem there. All Stafford has to do is make sure he's protected, and he can find him, because Amendola can find an open spot in a zone defense, or he can break away from a corner. What's your thoughts on Danny Amendola?
I'm going to be honest, Curtis. I wasn't as crazy about the signing of Amendola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know he was solid, with all those years for the Patriots and the Rams before that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's getting older, and I want to see the young guy, Brandon Powell from Florida, fill that role. Brandon Powell, he's dynamic. I think he could have been the perfect replacement for Golden Tate. Even Golden Tate and others gave Brandon that endorsement about he had a future. He's going to be a future baller for the Lions. I wasn't, I got to admit, I love my Lions. I wasn't crazy about the Amendola signing. Maybe this 5 years ago, I would have been more excited. But Amendola's that much as a year older. He's 34 years old. Will be by the time the season starts. And the one thing I hate about my Lions, what they have a history of doing, is signing a guy who used to be a good player, but they always sign him when he starts to decline. Look what happened with Garrett Blunt last year.
1 year too many. But I think he
1 year they signed him 1 year too late.
Yeah, 1 2 year. I think he's more of a locker room signing as well. I think he's more of a kind of like a mentor, where he'll come in and he'll have his role, but he'll actually mentor some of those young guys like Brandon Powell for the foreseeable future. I think he's more of a locker room guy, he's a kind of a gap fill, but as Brandon Powell develops, it may be a thing where he takes over that position later on in the year. Amendola may be a locker room signing. You look at, he knows that the way of Patricia, he was a long time Patriot. So going into the next guy, slot corner, Justin Coleman, paid a lot of money for this guy, but I would say this, his play at the Seahawks from the time he was at the Patriots, his time at the Seahawks, he played a very, very prominent role in that defense. I think I like him in the inside. He's a shorter guy. He's got skills. He's definitely got ball skills, but he has the speed to stay with those shifty or slot receivers in the league. So, I mean, what do you think about the Coleman signing?
Interesting signing. Like you said, they did pay a lot of money for him. And, of course, he is related. He's a cousin of both Darius Slay and Tracy Walker. So you have all in the family back in the Lions secondary.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised they paid that much money for a slot corner or nickelback, if you will. I'm surprised they don't make him the starting corner, opposite Slay. So it's going to be very interesting. Let's see what they do. I mean, that's a lot of money just to play for a nickelback. So we shall see. I'm more thinking he's getting paid starter money. Yeah. So, from what I hear, he's a good player. But like I said, I think if he's getting paid that much money, I think he should be starting opposite the other corner of his cousin, not just being a nickel guy.
Well, the only thing about that is that I think that the Lions and even at a lot of teams play their base package is a nickel package now because of how offense play the more wide open concept as far as more of a spread style or 3 to 4 wide receiver sets. So that's maybe why they signed him. I think that the next guy we're going to talk about, well, segue into him, Rashaan Melvin is going to compete for that outside slot. He's a taller corner. He's unlike Deshaun Shedd, who was a taller corner, but he was heavier. Rashaan Melvin's a slider corner as far as his weight. He's under 200 pounds. He has faster hips. Definitely had a better seasons at the Colts before he played with the Raiders last year. But I think his downfall last year was that the Raiders didn't have a pass rush to really protect him as a corner. Your corner's gonna have a good year if you have a good defensive line to kind of protect those guys, and they can pressure the quarterback, and they can, he was forced to cover longer, periods. Not to be out there on the island and have to keep covering guys for, several seconds, unlike, because there's no pass rush that really puts you in a bad position. But I like his ranginess. He has long arms. He's 6'2". I think he's like a $195 as he weighed in. he's going to be a guy. I think he's going to be the guy to kind of really challenge anybody else for that starting corner opposite Darius Slay. Just because, we already know that Slay got the other side locked down. I really think that this is me. I think I see that starting rotation in the secondary probably going to have Slay, and then at one corner, maybe Melvin at the other corner, Justin at that nickel, because I think our base defense is probably going to be a nickel anyway. Just because you look at the teams in the NFC North, a lot of they throw it around a lot, except for Chicago, where they still throw it around, but they have a running attack. And you look at those individuals, and then for safety, I'm looking at Diggs and maybe Tavon Wilson. He's still on the roster, so maybe between him and Walker, fighting for that strong safety starting position. Looking at the next guy, I want you to really give me your thoughts on this guy, because this is one of the signs I think we needed. Tell me about your thoughts on Jesse James coming in from Pittsburgh.
The Outlaw, yes, I like it. He was the best. That's his nickname. He was his nickname since he was a kid. I mean, obviously, what else could it be? The Outlaw. And I'm sure you could look for some Outlaw merchandise from Detroit coming to Ford Field soon. Yeah. And as well as the Lions website. Anyway, I really like it. They need a tight end. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't try and bring back Levine Toilolo. I really liked him. He started showing some receiving skills at the end of last year. And Levine was a big guy who could block. But they want to move on. They got once again the number one tight end on the market in James. He's a big guy. He's a good receiver. I think they see him as a poor man's Gronk. And I'm making huge comparisons, comparing Trey Flowers to Reggie White and Jesse James to Gronk. But that's what the Lions see him. He's big, he's long, he's rangy, 6'6", 250 pounds, a pretty good blocker. I think it was a good signing. I think this is also a message to Michael Roberts, who, was talented, coming out of the University of Toledo, but to me it looked kind of lazy. I'm like, that Thanksgiving game Michael Roberts had was pathetic. He didn't try. He was just going through the motions out there. I mean, he didn't try. That was a bad game, so they felt they needed to upgrade a tight end. And I'm glad they took James because, I definitely didn't want them spending a first-round pick on T.J. Hawkinson or even Noah Fant. I want them to get a good player at number 8. I don't want them to move down either, but I want a good defender or maybe an offensive guard to protect Stafford. But James, I really like the signing. Number one tight end. He should help. Right.
Now let's go through it because we're going to kind of go through these. I think these other guys that we signed are kind of like, what do you call that, a depth signing. But kind of like, increase that depth, have some veterans on the team. You have Adams, the safety out of Tampa. He had a good season last year. You have Ode out of Boosie, the offensive guard. And then we brought in back Logan Thomas. I think those guys, and Tom Lee Lewis, where he's a good slot guy and he's a good returner. I think that's where it really got Tom Lee Lewis, is that for his return skills. You need to make sure we give the Agnew a break. Sometimes I think Agnew's good in punt return, but I think we need to give him a break from kickoffs. So I think there's maybe a depth special team signing with Lewis. Any thoughts on those young guys that we kind of brought in? Those last 4 guys we brought in.
Tommy Lewis, the signing surprised me after they signed Amendola. Of course, Tommy Lewis, so far, his claim to fame is being that victim of that non-pass interference call. And it's a championship game when he got blasted by the Rams defender, which was obvious pass interference, but it wasn't called. And the Saints fans had a fit over that. They still have a fit to this day. I'm surprised they signed him because, once again, I'm still a Brandon Powell guy. I think, Brandon Powell has a similar skill set as Lewis. We'll see. And, I think the Lions have some blue-collar guys, not necessarily Calvin Johnson type players with blue collar guys at the receiver position, including Powell and T.J. Jones and Andy Jones.
Right.
We'll see who's going to make the roster. Are they going to keep 5 receivers? It's going to be interesting to see. And will they use Tom Lee on offense, or will they use him strictly as a punt returner, kick returner? We shall see. And like I said before earlier in the podcast, I'm not completely sold on the guy from the Cardinals, O'Day, what's his name again?
Abushi? Yeah.
I'm not completely sold on him being an answer at guard because he's a journeyman. He bounced around the league a little bit too. I still want the Lions to draft a big young guard. Okay, if you say there's no one worthy of that in the first round, they pick, so be it. But at least second or third round, definitely want a guy, want a young guy, unless you think Joe Dahl is finally ready to.
I was going to say his name. I was thinking about Joe Dahl, and you still have Wiggins is on the roster. He signed a multi-year contract, so I mean, you have some, and they're actually talking about maybe plugging in Cosby there. You know? Yes,
I heard that too. So that's one thing that Patricia and Quinn likes. They like guys who can play multiple positions, not just you got to know how to play multiple positions. You know, guard, tackle, and center. Right. That's the kind of guy that Joe Dahl is. Even Leo Kalamatangi, the undrafted free agent from Hawaii, he can play all across the line, all 3 positions: center, tackle, guard. They like guys who can play multiple positions.
Right.
And of course. One of my favorites, Graham Glasgow, can play center or guard. Yeah. Even tackle if he really needs to. So I like those guys with versatility. Right. But I still want another guard added to the mix for sure, a young guard in this draft.
I think we're going to find that later on in the draft, maybe a second and third day guy. I don't see – there's not a lot of a big name offensive linemen in this draft. There's not a lot of depth as previous years is like, you know, big time prospects as far as offensive linemen in this draft. The field's kind of thin. It's just, I mean, it is. I mean, is it a product of the offenses that they're running in college football now, or is it just maybe just the guys those linemen came out last year, and the ones that are there now, well, they're not ready. They're not big time enough to kind of garner a first round draft pick. I'm not seeing a lot of big name offensive linemen on draft boards right now.
You know, 2 guys who are guards who I really love. You know, I love Wisconsin offensive linemen.
Of course.
I want either Michael Dieter or his teammate Bo Boswell. I'm butcher's name, but one of those 2 big guys from Wisconsin. Wisconsin is known as O-line U, so I will have one of those guys, or Cody Ford from Oklahoma.
Right. So maybe we can pick up, you know, one of those guys later on down the line. All right, now let's kind of switch gears. Now we talked about the free agency. We talked about the guys we brought back, departures. What do you think about this new rule change with the pass interference being reviewable?
Well, like I said, as I mentioned, we have Tommy Lee Lewis, who was the victim who really, you know, brought this change about. I want to see how it works because, you know, it's tough enough on defensive backs as it is. Yeah, that play against Tommy Lee was a rare example, or extreme example, but as it is, defensive players can hardly play defense cleanly. Right. I mean, without you know, getting caught for pass interference. Sometimes they get pass interference when they shouldn't. And I heard about the rule change, but I don't know all the details. How many challenges did it get? Can you count every call?
No, if it's into I'm not sure. If it's into the same, it's in the same realm as it always is as far as the replay is concerned. It's not a separate replay itself. If it's a coach's challenge, so the coaches can challenge a pass interference, offense or defense, or a non-call. But it's into that 3 challenge thing for the game. So, you know, if you get one, you know, if you get 3, you know, whatever, and if you win it, you get another one type of deal. And in the last 2 minutes of the half, it goes to the booth. So it's in the same realm. It's not a separate replay itself, it still into that same it just makes the play reviewable instead of non-reviewable. So basically that's all it does. So basically, if it's called on the field, the coach can challenge it via offense or defense, but they risk one of those challenges they have for the game. So I think that the thing that's going to be the most impact is at the end of the half, where those final 2 minutes of the half or the game, where that egregious non-call, where us as Lions fans, I'm not really worried about that Tommy Lewis call. I'm worried about the call that we had in Dallas a few years ago in the playoff game. Though, so that would have been reviewable for us. So they could have threw the challenge flag on that play, saying, "Hey, he was totally interfered with," or in that last 2 minutes of the game where the booth review would have said, "Hey, buzz down, this play is under review because there was possible interference." I think it's going to be, as long as it's called fair and equal on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, I think it's going to be fine. I do like the fact that they took out there's no more blindside blocks anymore. No matter what angle, can that be a blindside block? It helps with defensive players, keeping those guys safe. I think that the offense got a little too happy with keeping those guys safe, and so I'm glad that they brought that no blindside blocks, because a guy can get seriously injured, hurt, career-ending injury from a blindside block. You really can get hurt an individual doing that stuff. So because definitely if you don't see it coming, that's probably the worst hit. The one you don't see coming. So you can't blindside block anymore. It is the night I'm looking at, Thursday night. We're looking at a big game for the Pistons tonight. What do you think about your man coming off the end of the podcast right now? What do you think about the Pistons going for that playoff berth tonight?
Yes. They're playing as we speak. They need this win. They lost 3 out of the last 4 on the road. Mm-hmm. Tough losses in the West Coast trip. That was a tough time to go out west, but it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And they lost 3 of the 4. They must win. Because you got 4 teams actually battling for those last 3 spots in the East. The Pistons will have nothing solid yet. Nothing clinch. There's 8 games left. We got to win as many as possible. I hope Blake got his rest. He sat on a Cleveland game, which we lost. We could have used that victory because all victories count, you can see. I hope they don't come back to harm them, but I think we're going to pull it out. I think we'll get either maybe the 7th or 8th spot. I don't care. As long as we end, anything can happen. That's how I look at it.
All right. Well, good luck to the Pistons tonight. Also, good luck to the Michigan Wolverines, who play here in the next hour, a little over an hour away from tip-off, as they face a tough defensive team in Texas Tech. As you hear this podcast, the games will already been played, but we're definitely going to mention those guys. We're going to mention them good luck tonight on the adventures on the hardwood. Just to kind of deviate from the gridiron for a minute, but this has been our first podcast with my man Seany J. He is my new co-host, so show him some love. This podcast will be on across several social media platforms to include Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The links will be posted, and also it'll be on Apple iTunes and the Spotify, and also Google Podcasts. Generally, wherever you're going to find podcasts, you're going to find the Die Hard Den podcast show. My man Seany J, give him some parting words for the people.
Well, I had a good time tonight, Curtis. I'm glad to be part of this podcast, and I hope we can do it again real soon.
Okay, so, all right, so tell them how to find you on social media.
You can find me on Facebook. That's the main thing I use. Sean Jennings is my name. You'll see me. I'm all parts alliance groups. You want to contact me, you're welcome to it. Sean Jenks is the main thing I use. I don't use too many other things, but I'm always on Facebook.
All right. So, me, it's your man, Curtis Steele. You definitely can find me on Facebook, Curtis W. Steele Jr., on Twitter, at Curtis Steele 14, on Instagram, at Curtis Steele 14. You can find me on those platforms. I'm a Curtis Steele on LinkedIn. So, this is your man, Curtis Steele, for your man, Seany J. It's the Die Hard Den. We'll see you next time, and we out.